Okay, let's unpack this. If you are trying to navigate the modern romantic landscape, dating, finding connections, building a real partnership, it feels less like romance and more like some advanced project management course.
And one that's being run during a financial crisis, no less.
Exactly.
And that is precisely the core stressor we found in the source material.
Hmm.
For Gen Z, that's anyone born roughly between 1997 and 2012. Dating just isn't happening in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's happening under intense economic pressure, digital chaos, and, well, a global mental health crisis.
It sounds completely overwhelming.
It is, and the statistics, they really confirm it. I think one source said 70% of Gen Z teenagers report anxiety and depression as major problems among their peers. That level of, ambient stress is absolutely going to affect relationships.
So our mission today is to cut through that noise for you. We dove into a really diverse stack of sources, academic research on what actually drives relationship satisfaction, psychological reports on digital burnout.
And Gen Z's really unique coping mechanisms, yeah.
Right, and studies charting this big shift in their pragmatic priorities.
And the takeaway from this deep dive is, I think, very clear. The antidote to all that digital exhaustion and high anxiety is its measurable emotional fitness. We are unpacking how emotional intelligence, or EI, provides the strategic blueprint you need to move from chasing these idealized digital fantasies to actually building genuine, resilient connections.
Connections that last.
That last.
So let's jump right in. Let's talk about the fundamental shift in the Gen Z relationship paradigm, because the data shows they are, pragmatic to the core. They're ditching traditional romance for calculated stability.
Absolutely. Traditional idealized romance has taken a profound backseat to functional partnership. And the driver is economic uncertainty. We saw one survey where a massive 79% of respondents valued marriage primarily as a tool for financial and emotional stability.
Wow. So wait, a primary frame isn't soulmates, it's
Security.
security. Think about that. That's a tectonic shift. It means financial stability isn't just a nice bonus anymore, it's a foundational metric. The data we looked at suggested financial compatibility is viewed as more important than physical compatibility.
Right. It's almost like they're running a business plan for dating, like you said, right out of the gate.
That's the perfect analogy.
And this creates unique and really immediate pressures on people who are just entering the dating pool. If you're a young man, for example, you're navigating your early career, you've got massive student debt, and you're just, struggling to hit those financial milestones.
Milestones that previous generations might have hit way earlier.
Exactly. You can experience these immense feelings of inadequacy.
And what's the behavioral outcome of that stress? Where does that lead?
It just amplifies anxiety to the point where, honestly, it often discourages them from pursuing relationships at all. It's like, why enter this high-stakes arena if you feel like you can't even meet the baseline requirement of financial security?
So that pressure to be a provider, even in what we think of as more progressive settings, it's still there.
Oh, it remains a profound source of friction. And for some, non-participation.
But if they do decide to jump in, they immediately hit what our sources call the digital battlefield. And this is where the mental health toll of just being so hyper-connected, it really starts to show.
It's exhaustion on an epic scale. It impacts nearly everyone. A staggering 79% of Gen Z report feeling mentally and emotionally drained just from scrolling and swiping.
It's from the act of looking.
Yes, the volume of options becomes a psychological burden, not an advantage.
And while they're scrolling through all that noise, they're suffering from what one analyst called choice paralysis. They're hunting for the avatar.
The avatar, right. It's this fantasy of perfection. It's a person who's defined by their best 5 curated photos, a perfectly witty bio, and, an immaculate social media feed.
And the problem there is twofold, right?
Exactly. First, the sheer abundance of choice guarantees that you search for this fantasy. You're constantly looking for that perfect 10 out of 10. And second, that fantasy guarantees disappointment when you meet the complex, real human being behind the screen.
Okay, but wait a second. If 79% are exhausted from swiping, why don't they just stop? What keeps them on this digital battlefield, chasing the avatar, even when they know it's making them miserable?
That's the classic psychological trap, isn't it? It's a combination of the sunk cost fallacy and FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Ah, right.
They've already invested so much time and emotional energy that they feel they have to keep going, convinced the perfect match is just one more swipe away. To stop means admitting that entire investment might have been wasted, And that's a really difficult psychological hurdle to cross.
And that loop just fuels the burnout.
It fuels a burnout epidemic. And when things inevitably go wrong in that high-pressure, low-investment environment, that's when we see ghosting.
Ghosting, it's such a painful symptom of all this.
It is the sudden cutoff with no explanation. It leaves the other person confused and intensely hurt,
Yeah.
forcing them to internalize the rejection because they have zero closure. It's, I think, the clearest indicator that our connection technologies have just dramatically outpaced our digital decency.
And that sets the stage for a major contradiction we found in the sources. We're calling it the vulnerability paradox. They crave authentic connection. They prioritize emotional honesty. But they're simultaneously terrified of being open themselves.
Yes, this massive frustrating gap,
Hmm.
the desire for closeness versus the fear of openness. Research from dating apps shows Gen Z daters are 36% more hesitant than millennials to initiate those deep conversations on a first date.
They want the depth, but they stall.
They stall before taking the plunge.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
If they want closeness, why the holdback? What is driving this huge fear?
Fear of judgment, largely driven by the performative nature of social media. Half of Gen Z men and 45% of Gen Z women report that social media has made them significantly more hesitant to be emotionally open.
And it's that fear of being labeled cringe, right?
That's the word. The fear of being cringe, embarrassing, or uncool is a powerful social deterrent. And this is compounded by the fact that 95% of them worry about rejection. This pressure to maintain a perfect, publicly acceptable image, it just clashes directly and violently with the need for authentic vulnerability.
And when that pressure cooker builds, that's when we see the rise of trauma dumping as a coping mechanism. Tell us what that looks like.
Trauma dumping is essentially an attempt to bypass small talk and just leap straight to depth. It's the unsolicited, one-sided sharing of intensely negative or traumatic experiences without any regard for the listener's capacity.
So it's a rush to honesty, but it's missing something.
It's missing the social awareness, the empathy, the very elements that make vulnerability feel safe and shared.
And this often shows up in, well, darkly humorous ways online. I'm thinking about that candy salad trend on TikTok that you highlighted.
That trend perfectly encapsulates this. It's young adults mixing candy together while doing these casual, rapid-fire bouts of trauma or confession. They are using dark humor and extreme openness as a coping strategy. They are actively rejecting the sort of quiet, slow, therapeutic ideals of previous generations.
They're sharp, they're straightforward.
They want to get to the point instantly, it's faster, but like we said, it's also high risk. While the trend reflects a genuine desire for openness, that openness, when it isn't paired with empathy, it just overloads the other person.
Right, it can actually damage the very relationship you're trying to build.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
partner feels overwhelmed and burdened, not connected. True vulnerability is a shared experience, not a one-way data dump.
So we've identified the paradox. They crave connection but fear vulnerability, and their attempts to speed up vulnerability often backfire. We need a way out. And this is where our sources deliver the hard science on emotional intelligence.
Right. So let's start with a conversational definition. While it was formally established back in the 90s, you can think of EI as simply the ability to perceive, understand, manage, and regulate emotions.
In yourself and in others.
Both. It's the internal and external framework for handling emotional information in a way that just, well, builds better relationships.
And the research confirms that EI is the foundational component for success. This isn't wishful thinking, it's measurable.
That's the critical takeaway. Multiple projects confirm that high EI enables consistently productive communication. It helps partners address emotional dilemmas better before they escalate into huge fights. Low EI, on the other hand,
Leads to problems.
it leads to significant problems regulating emotions. It fills relationships with frustration, resentment, and just overall dissatisfaction.
The sources gave us an incredible set of quantitative findings on this. Tell us about that study of 50 couples. This is where it gets really interesting.
The correlations were significant and positive across the board, just hard evidence. For example, they found a strong correlation between EI and relationship satisfaction measured at R equals 0.72.
Okay, so for our listener who might not be fluent in stats, what does an R value of 0.72 actually tell us?
It tells you that EI is predictive. It means if you know a person's EI score, you can predict their overall relationship satisfaction almost 3/4 of the time. This isn't soft psychology. It's a structural necessity that predicts relationship health. The correlation with communication quality was R equals 0.68, and with conflict resolution, it was 0.65.
That's powerful. But the real power was in the predictive capability of the overall model.
Exactly. They used regression analysis to see how much of the success EI could account for, and the results were staggering. Emotional intelligence acts as a powerful predictor, explaining 52% of the variation in overall relationship satisfaction.
Half, more than half.
If you're looking for stability, for partnership longevity, for the very things Gen Z seeks, mastering EI is the most effective skill you can possibly acquire.
And we also need to note what the sources found about gender in EI.
Oh, crucially, yes. The study found no significant gender differences in EI, relationship satisfaction, communication, or conflict resolution. This confirms that these skills aren't gendered. Whether you're a man or a woman, mastering EI equally drives relationship success.
Okay, so let's move from the science to the practical. We've broken this down into 2 modules, starting with Module 1, Inner EQ. This is all about self-regulation, and the sources noted a critical weakness for Gen Z here.
This is what we call the resilience gap. Gen Z shows high emotional awareness. They know they're anxious, they can name the terms, they know where the stress is coming from, but they often struggle significantly with self-regulation.
The ability to manage it.
Exactly. The ability to maintain stable emotional function during duress. Knowing you're anxious is step one, but knowing what to do about it in the moment of crisis, that's the gap they have to close.
So the Inner EQ toolkit has to focus on quick, practical behavioral strategies, things that work right now. What are the key tools?
The first is paced breathing. It's a core grounding technique. The process is simple. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, and then make your exhale longer, at least 6 counts. Extending that exhale sends a direct message to your nervous system that you're safe. It forces your body to calm down.
And what about for moments of really intense panic?
That's when you need sensory grounding. This means using intense, disruptive sensory experiences to anchor you to the present. Think about plunging your hands into ice water, or chewing on super sour candy, or even a brief high-intensity sprint.
The goal is just to overwhelm your senses with the present.
Right, making it impossible to focus on the anxious thoughts. It's an interruption.
Inner EQ also involves self-awareness. To mitigate that shame spiral that comes with that 95% fear of rejection you mentioned.
This requires constant cognitive reframing. You have to shift your focus from the rejection outcome, like not getting a second date, to your personal intention.
What do you mean by intention?
Ask yourself, did I act with my truth? Did I show up authentically? That intentional win is what matters for your self-worth, not the external validation, which is often completely arbitrary and outside of your control.
That makes sense. Okay, let's move to Module 2, Mastering Outer EQ. This is about empathy and relationship management. This is where high EI turns that inner work into constructive action.
Right, and especially during conflict. Productive conflict resolution absolutely requires structured communication. When you have high EQ, you know how to assert your needs without attacking your partner. The focus has to be on your internal, irrefutable experience.
So what's the formula for that?
It's the I statement. The formula is simple. When I see, hear, or notice the specific behavior, I feel your emotion. It shifts the conversation away from blame.
Okay, give us a clear example. Let's translate a common accusation.
So instead of the accusation, you obviously don't care about me, you reframe it. You say, when we're spending time together and I see that you're in a long text conversation with someone else, I feel hurt and unimportant.
Ah, I see. So that invites a dialogue about a specific need like security or prioritization instead of just a character attack.
It focuses on the system, not the person. And this need for ethical conduct extends directly into the digital space, which you call digital decency.
Correct. High EQ demands it. So that means even when you decide to end a connection, you have to provide clear, simple closure. No ghosting.
Even if it's brief. That simple act of digital decency prevents the other person from internalizing the rejection and entering that painful self-blame cycle. It's a fundamental act of empathy in today's world.
And finally, protecting the connection itself relies on setting clear boundaries. This is where outer EQ reinforces inner EQ.
Boundary setting is essential. It's what protects you against emotional labor burnout and what we call toxic empathy, where you just absorb everyone else's feelings. Healthy boundaries, like agreements on phone usage during shared time, are absolutely crucial for making a relationship sustainable long-term.
So what does this all mean? Our deep dive shows that emotional intelligence is not optional. It is the foundational infrastructure that enables the stable, pragmatic, and resilient relationships Gen Z is actively looking for.
Fostering these skills is more than just personal development. It has profound implications for how we structure everything from couples therapy to relationship education programs. EI is what protects a relationship against all those high external stressors we talked about.
But the sources also provided a very specific final thought for you to consider as we close this deep dive.
Indeed. We know Gen Z excels at emotional awareness, but they often lag critically in self-regulation. So if this generation is seeking partnership primarily for emotional and financial security, a stable base, what impact will the failure to master inner resilience have on the stability they crave when outside stressors inevitably rise?
And they will rise.
They always do. That is the real work that remains, ensuring that your emotional foundation is sturdy enough to handle the inevitable pressures of the modern world.